Hello, everybody. Welcome to the PC Gamer Show for April 4th, 2018. We've had a bit of a 2-week hiatus due to, well, GDC.
I've been podcasting the whole time, James.
Here's the thing. We had podcasts come out. The live show has been on a two-week hiatus because of GDC. We had some really good podcasts come out, though. So if you watch the live show, typically go to pcgamer.com/tag/podcast and you talk to Wes, our features editor, who's with us today. Talk to a couple different people, developers, including Sven from
Larian
Studios.
Yeah, so I talked to Sven from Larian about Divinity Original Sin 2. I talked to the developers of Into the Breach, also the developers of FTL, a game you might have heard of.
Perhaps.
And I talked to the creator of Dwarf Fortress, who has been working on Dwarf Fortress for 12 years, I think, and is probably going to continue working on Dwarf Fortress longer than any of us are writing about PC games.
Yeah, and I also talked to Lucas Kinsey of Amanita Design, those guys who the studio that put out Samurai series, Machinarium.
I love Machinarium. Yeah, that's my favorite.
So one of my favorite studios overall. So it was like a weird, dream come true for me. But they have some pretty cool stuff coming out, including a new horror game. They're working on 4 games, which is kind of unheard of for their studio. But anyway, we don't mean to be ignoring you, Chris. Chris Livingston is also here in digital form.
Chris just shrugs.
Hi. It's fine. Talk amongst yourselves. It's fine.
Sorry, man. But we have a lot of stuff to talk about today. The big video game shaped elephant in the room, that doesn't make sense, is Far Cry 5. So we'll be finally Chris reviewed it. I've played a bunch of it. And Wes, I'm sure you have plenty of questions about Far Cry 5.
Yeah. Are there any elephants in it?
Secret. No, there's no elephants. Are there elephants? There might be a Bigfoot.
No, there's like a La Brea tar pits type area with some fake mammoths, but you cannot ride them around. It's very upsetting.
That's close. I wonder if they just used a model from Far Cry Primal for the mammoths.
Oh, probably.
Just
probably he's propped it up.
Retextured it or something.
Yeah.
It sucks because when you're running toward it, you can hear elephant noises, and you're like, yes, there's an elephant. And then it's just a park with fake elephants. Very upsetting.
Bummer.
We're going to talk about some news that hit recently. And Chris also got his hands on the Vive Pro, the latest iteration of HTC's headset. So we'll be talking about that, some listener questions, and what we've been playing, of course. So why don't we start off there?
What we've been playing?
What you've been playing?
You looking at me?
Yeah.
Looking at me. So I've mostly been playing the same 2 games, actually, for a while. I've been playing Into the Breach until it stresses me out too much and I need to take a break. And I've been playing Vermintide 2 still.
Oh, yeah. How's that going?
Really well. I'm level 19 in Vermintide 2.
What does that represent? Is that super far? Is that high level stuff?
So 30 is the highest you can level in the game. The way Vermintide 2 works is you can play any of the levels basically any time. It's not level gated or anything like that. If you're choosing what map to play, you have to kind of progress through these 3 paths that you unlock stages in as you go. But if you're doing quick play, you can just end up in whatever map basically. And so leveling is more just getting more powerful so that you can then play on a higher difficulty setting. So I've started dabbling in the 2nd and 3rd difficulty tiers above Recruit, where you'll get more experience, potentially better loot, and you kind of it scales the challenge appropriately. Because I'm at the point now where if I'm playing on the easiest difficulty level with my weapons, I can just kind of one-hit kill every basic enemy, which is nice. Not complaining, but it doesn't have the challenge that it did when I first started out. And they have definitely made the game a bit easier overall than it was when we first played it. Some people were giving us flack for saying it was too hard in the beta, but they have nerfed the difficulty probably half a dozen times since that beta. So I feel vindicated from that. But that game is really, really fun. Cool. And I'm enjoying getting into some higher tier loot that has some cool effects on it. Each character has kind of 3 unique classes or play styles that you can go with, and I've been playing the dwarf character in his I think Slayer is the name. Like Warhammer, Warhammer fans will know what that indicates, right? But I'm basically, instead of playing as the very tanky version of the dwarf with like an axe and shield, I'm playing dual-handed axes, shirtless, with a with a like
guns out
character class ult ability that makes you just leap across the screen, just leap forward and do like a double-handed strike.
Oh, that's fun.
And then your attack speed is like increased by 50% for like 10 seconds, and so you can just wail on shit. So it's the opposite of how I started playing that game, very defensively. Yeah. I'm now just like a horde of 50 rat men are coming in, and I'm just jumping into the pile.
It's good to know that it's versatile enough to allow for that eventually, because it's fun to play defensively and conservatively, but I can imagine you want to exercise those arms here.
It's way more fun. I'm also dying way more than I was before, but it's okay.
Glass cannon. Cool. And I know you were talking briefly about the mod scene for the first game. Is there, and Jody wrote an article for us recently sort of like touching on what those modders are up to or thinking about with Vermintide 2. Is there anything kind of going on?
So Jody talked to like somebody at Fat Shark, the developer, and then also a couple modders who had worked on the first game, I think, and are planning on doing stuff for the second one. So they actually Fat Shark never got around to putting out like an official modding toolkit for Vermintide 1, even though they wanted to. And they're actually still planning to do that around the same time they launch tools for Vermintide 2, which they're saying is going to be like end of April. Could slip a little bit, but that's what they're aiming for. So even though there were no designated mod tools for the first game, people still made mods anyway. For this one, I'm really hoping there's going to be kind of like a Left 4 Dead 2 situation where we start seeing entire campaigns coming out from creators and like doing really cool, creative, expansive stuff. At the moment, I would, bank more on there being some like balance mods and mods that change up the number of enemies you're fighting and shit like that. But based on the number of people who bought this game, the community is already, I think, bigger than Vermintide 1's ever was, or maybe not quite, but it's definitely bigger than it was at launch. This game is at a really successful launch, so I think there's going to be some really cool mod activity around it once those tools hit in 4 or 5 weeks.
Hell yeah. Well, it's exciting. It's good to know. Cool. Anything else you've been playing, Wes?
Into the Breach, like I said, that game is still great. I've beaten it with like 3 or 4 squads now.
Cool.
Out of, I think there are 8 total. And then you can also, mix and match, make your own squad. But I'm kind of working my way up to tackling hard. I've gotten, I think I'm good enough now that I can beat it on normal pretty reliably. I think the only run I actually ever failed was my first one. So I'm feeling pretty good about being able to tackle hard mode, but it might kick my teeth in once I actually try it. I don't know. Evan is beating it on hard, so if he can do it, I can do it.
Well, best of luck, Wes. Chris, what about you?
This week, primarily Skyrim VR, which just arrived on, I think, Tuesday. What is it, Wednesday now? Yeah. So that came out yesterday, and I've been checking that out. Bethesda continues to pretty much, embrace VR with their existing game, which is kind of fun. On the other hand, and I really wish, I was thinking about it with Skyrim VR this week, I wish it wasn't a separate title. Like, I wish it was somehow just, I'm playing Skyrim, now why don't I put it on my VR headset and just pick up right where I left off. But these are 2 separate games, kind of unfortunately. I can't imagine, I guess there are some games you can play in VR or without, but this is kind of like a separate thing. But it would be nice to kind of jump in and out because honestly, VR is difficult to play for very long periods of time. But it is kind of neat. I mean, Skyrim's been around for a long time, 2011, I think. I've certainly played several hundred hours of it. And I still enjoy it. It's just hard to feel any kind of real, awe or kind of wonder or kind of mystery at this point. But seeing it in VR, like I keep kind of stopping to just look at stuff. You know, seeing a dragon for the first time is like kind of cool again, because it's, instead of just looking at it, you like actually have to like turn your head and look up at it.
I think,
or just passing a waterfall or something, some kind of site or some spot you wind up in. It gives it kind of a freshness because it's the same Skyrim, but you're.
I think that's the real shame of it not being the same base game as proper Skyrim, is not being able to have mods in the VR version, at least right now. Who knows what'll happen, but the fact that Skyrim VR doesn't let you see Macho Man Randy Savage Dragon, or just like any of the crazy shit people modded into the game, is a bummer.
Yeah, and it would be nice to be able to like jump into a character I've played for a long time instead of kind of starting over from scratch. But it's neat, and it's kind of a weird thing with a game that's existed and now is kind of VR capable. Like, there's some great things about it, like I said, like seeing things from a new perspective. It is really fun to like hold up your shield, physically hold up your arm and block arrows that are coming in. And then at the end of the battle, you like turn it over and you can pull the arrows out and collect them. But then the world itself isn't really that interactive. Like, if you want to pull a lever, there's a lot of levers in the game to, lower a drawbridge or disable a trap or something. You can't reach out and do that. You reach out and a little menu appears that says push the button to activate the lever. So you it's never really gonna feel that deep in terms of how you interact with it. So it's kind of like, there's a lot of pros and cons, but it is pretty neat to walk up to a giant and have to look up at it. It's just kind of an interesting feel to it. So that's mainly what I've been playing this week.
VR is obviously a much, much, much smaller market than all of PC gaming, all of console gaming, but the fact that Bethesda has embraced it so much with ports of their of games like Doom and Fallout and Skyrim makes me wonder if for the next Elder Scrolls, for example, are they going to develop it with sort of a version in mind to have VR functionality, rather than like retrofitting it in? Are they going to be thinking about like, as they're making the game, we can design, levers in such a way that in the VR version we'll have kind of code in place that will let you, just pull the lever instead of pressing a button for it, and kind of plan ahead for that stuff.
I would really love. I mean, they clearly are really interested in VR, and it would be great to see something built specifically for it from them, either a completely new type of game, or just as they're building like you said, the next Elder Scrolls or next Fallout 4, since that's going to be in their mind and their design plan from the beginning, to see how they could really make the environments and the world and the things you do way more interactive.
Cool. It does seem like a smart move, like for a big company to just like get the foundation taken care of, because VR very well could be the shit soon, and they'll be ready.
We'll see. I'm still skeptical.
Me too. Did you get sick from it at all? Because I played Skyrim VR like at some demo many months ago, and I remember just feeling it was the first time I felt sick.
The first time I tried it in VR was the first time I felt nauseous, and I felt nauseous for a little while after. It wasn't really motion sickness. It was something else, and I think it was maybe one of the issues I'm having with it is the text prompts feel like they're like really up in your face. And I don't know if it's something about like having to refocus my eyes, or something like that. Something about it made me feel like afterwards for an hour afterwards. That was the only thing that really jumped out at me as being problematic. Like, I just felt like I was having to, it's like reading something that someone is holding too close to your face.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem to be a motion sickness thing. It more felt like, I don't know, kind of just a sort of weird, unpleasant kind of feeling.
Cool. Well,
Weird unpleasantness, the Skyrim VR
Good to know that
experience.
Like, yeah.
It is also pretty cool, I gotta say, to have a fire spell in both your hands and hold your hands out in front of you.
Okay, yeah.
And just totally blast someone with fire. That's very fun.
Worth it. It's like, is it still it's like selling for $60 or $50 or something like
60,
that? 60,
yeah.
It's a...
It will not be the last version of Skyrim.
No.
That goes on sale.
So, yeah, if you're skeptical, just hold your horses. But
Skyrim is becoming like the Doom of you can play this game on X amount of things. It's everywhere.
It's the Doom, the Tetris, the Street Fighter 2.
So we'll see it on calculator soon enough. Cool. Anything else, Chris? That's you just putter around in VR. We'll get to Far Cry in a bit for sure. But
yeah, I tried a couple of little VR games. I don't know if they were little, but I played them for a little amount of time. One was called Operation Apex, which was like an underwater exploration thing that was kind of enjoyable. Your VR hands are basically like I don't know even what you call them. You hold them out, and they have little fins on them that flap and pull you through the water. And there were sharks and other undersea life, and that was kind of fun to swim around. I don't think I've really done any real underwater VR stuff so far.
Cool.
So that was enjoyable.
Fish hands? Is that what you'd call them?
They're like robot fish hands, I would call them. Strange.
Right on. I'll talk about what I've been playing. A decent amount. Far Cry 5, which we'll get to. But something I never thought I would say is that I've been playing a lot of Fortnite.
James likes Fortnite.
I really like Fortnite.
You heard it here. You heard it here first, Internet.
I should clarify, Fortnite Battle Royale, the Battle Royale mode. I think it's just what Fortnite is now, just colloquially known as.
Not to everyone, James.
Not to everyone.
Everyone.
We put up an article by Luke Winkie just yesterday. I'll link to it in chat about like what the players and lovers of the original mode Save the World feel about this pivot and the attention on Battle Royale versus their own mode.
Yeah, and some of them are definitely worried that given the popularity of the Battle Royale mode, like might only be a matter of time until Epic kills off the the original vanilla version. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they will keep that version alive for the long term, but it might not get as much attention a year from now as right now. There's definitely still updating it. They're still been doing events, all that stuff, but I feel like that focus will probably continue to shift more and more towards the Battle Royale.
Definitely. Unless there's some game-changing update and cultural shift. But I don't anticipate.
Or they might just think of it as like a good community gesture to keep it going.
Sure.
But probably fewer people working on that right now.
They probably have enough money and enough resources to at least keep it alive. But Battle Royale.
Tell us why you're a convert.
When Battle Royale first came out, I hated it. I thought it was super boring, and it was. It was a big empty map. The guns from Save the World, which are all functional and fine, and this big kind of the map, like I said, had no landmarks or fewer landmarks, and its art style they changed quite a bit. They revamped it. Was much more. It was like pastel and blank colors, like almost more cell shaded, and. So it was just a matter, there's no vehicles, so it was a matter of diving in, and it was just like this very robotic feeling PUBG imitation.
It felt like it was something that they hacked together in 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, they literally did. They did put it together in 2 or 3 months. So, and that's what it felt like. I was like, I don't really see this being a great alternative besides the fact that it's free. And that, I think being free was enough to get enough people playing.
For sure,
for them to continue to support it. And eventually these updates came out, and we talked about this in another Luke Winkie Fortnite feature, which I'll link to in the chat, about sort of like the long, strange development of Fortnite. And we touch on the sort of like the quick cadence of updates that really came out that sort of like turned that game around and made it feel like a Battle Royale mode that wasn't just trying to be PUBG. They added...
It really is crazy that there's like this 6-year period of... very little happening publicly. Like,
Yes.
obviously they're working on the game, an immense amount of work went into it, but to the observer, it's like every 2 years you hear something new about Fortnite.
Yep.
And then just in the span of the past, 4 months, so much happened with the Battle Royale mode to get it to where it is now.
Yeah, they moved the Unreal team over, the Unreal Tournament team over, and said, make this. And they did, really quickly. And the first couple updates that I think turned it around were, well, first of all, there was an exploit, the rocket riding exploit, that was part of this. It kind of was discovered as part of the Halloween update. There were the rockets, the RPGs themselves were replaced with pumpkins that had their own like collision. So you could leap on a pumpkin rocket and ride it across the map. And all these like cool clips were starting to be shared about like people were riding these rockets, flanking the enemies, and then sniping like on them, from the air. And it was rad. I mean, you can't really do that in PUBG or any other battle royale game or most games for what I know. So that changed things. They kept the exploit because they thought it was so fun. And then they added the bush, which is...
Which you can walk around as,
yeah,
right?
It's much less popular now. The bush meta is pretty much dead. They need to update the bush. But it's, you basically like get a random drop from these chests and you could turn into a bush and just like hobble around like, Solid Snake style and surprise people. But now everyone knows what to look for, and it's like...
Are there bushes around the map that you can blend in with?
Yeah, they look exactly like the other bushes
That's
around
good.
the map. So you can still hide in normal bushes. You just can't take the bush with you. Right after that, like a week, this is all like in the span of like a month, they added the launch pad, which basically is this trap. It's a trap an item categorized as a trap because you still have spikes and such that you can deploy in the game from Save the World. That you hop on it and it sends you flying into the air, and you get like a second chance to skydive, like a mini skydive, like you do at the beginning of the map. You get the parachute, and people were doing really cool stuff with that, like flanking people.
Good way to get away from trouble. Or
and they were like
sneak up.
outpacing the storm, so people would like learn they could be like right on the edge of the storm, and then scavenge basically free of trouble, and then fly back in. Some really cool stuff. So those really like changed what Battle Royale was, and since then they've put out like every 2 weeks at least some kind of new item or interesting update. They had a huge update to the like western side of the map, introducing like the city area, Tilted Towers, which is hell. Don't go there unless you're like a pro gamer. And updated the art style, updated the progression scheme, which I really like. It's Battle Pass, and so you can like opt in for like $8 or something to...
Is that for the month or permanently?
It's per season. And seasons, I'm not really sure like if they have a specific cadence for how long those last. I know it's like, I think this last one's been like 2 months or something like that.
Okay.
About 10 weeks total, so just over 2 months. And
I feel like every game has a different length of time that a season is.
Yeah. It's
hard to keep track of.
I'm sure they're workshopping it and figuring it out as they go. But you opt in for $8. You don't have to. You can still get some things for free. And you get these objectives released every week that, some are like do sniper damage, kill people with sniper rifles, these really kind of achievement-y style goals. But other ones are visit a crab, a fox, and a llama or something, and there are certain structures that they'll put up around the map that you have to go visit. There are treasure maps that they'll like put out. They'll like follow the treasure map in I don't know, like the Wailing Woods.
And you're doing this within a Battle Royale match.
Yeah, so I think it's a really nice way to like make you feel like you're doing something or gaining something, or you have achievable goals, even if you're fucking awful at the game like me, because it's still 1 versus 99. And
maybe it helps encourage more people to move around the map a little bit.
Yeah, it encourages you to like really learn different weapons and like learn areas, because it'll say like kill 3 people here or find 10 chests in this area. So even if like you are bad at the game, you might go to this area and like learn something about it. So when you do end up there, I think it's smart because the top 10 in every battle is just like full of esports, Minecraft kids who grew up with building systems or something, because the building system is still in the game, and like learning to scavenge and like allocate, like gather resources as you go is important as being able to point and shoot. And more important is being able to make shit on the fly out of that stuff. So people are building ramps to gain high ground against each other. And it's these really weird, like, battles that, like, unless you are familiar with the systems, it's almost like the MOBA condition where, like, unless you know something about what's going on, it looks like nothing. But I've slowly come to grips, and I put out a building guide with how that stuff works this week. And once you get the hang of it and remap your keys and sort of like understand that you don't need to be excellent at it to like make use of it, it becomes something really unique, at least among shooters. So I don't know, I've been having a blast with it.
Should Chris and I squad up with you and drag you down?
I think everyone on PC Gamer should give it a shot. I think everyone out there, if you're like, oh, kiddie game, it came in and like, you know, I mean, it's questionable like morally what they did in for sure. But it's, you know, capitalism, I suppose. It's a good game.
I do want to learn kind of how to play it just so I can understand, because someone will like post a GIF and it'll be like, you got to check out this Fortnite play, and I'm like, it looks like a guy kind of building walls, and then he takes a shot like 2 minutes later and wins, and it's like, what? How did all that help him? So I kind of want to play just so I know, like, so I understand what people get so excited about when they post like awesome plays.
Yeah, I would encourage that.
Hard to tell.
It's people expressing themselves through gameplay, through building.
It's true. I mean, it's the most memeable game, and they're really leaning into like the cosmetic angle plus the like the emotes. Like people are using them in really interesting ways. There's this I put out. No, maybe I didn't. But there's this there's this rocket riding emote. So someone rode an actual rocket, like like I described earlier, and then did the rocket riding emote, which like spawns this rocket below the player. So he's like riding a rocket on top of a rocket, and then he snipes someone to win. In another example, there's this backflip emote, and people are like, it's the new no scope, where you trigger this emote, and as you come out of the backflip, you have to like no scope somebody.
Holy shit!
Or scope them, whatever. But either way, it's impressive. So there's like all these kind of funny. The emotes are really kind of add to the game. They're not just. They're really interesting, like because they're expressive and funny and ridiculous. People are using them like to taunt or bait people. Some people will like lay a trap in a building and they'll hear someone upstairs and they'll like trigger a dance which plays music and you can hear it. So they'll be like, you know, what's that? Come down, trap. So it's just really silly. I think like losing is fun most of the time because you lose in an absurd way. The temporary modes are really ridiculous. Like I played, my favorite so far has been the 5 teams of 20 because it's just stupid chaos. These like at the end of the match, like 2 teams usually persist, and they build these massive like forts at opposite ends. Rockets are flying back and forth, and it's just kind of like unlike anything I've played in a game.
It's like Worms, but in real time and at 3D.
Yeah. So
it's kind of interesting too to like, you know, PUBG was the thing for a long time, and it'd sort of be like Fortnite having so many kind of experimental things is interesting when you look at something like PUBG, which would be like, here's a picture of a gun that you'll probably get to try in 3 months, or here's jumping with you know that you'll get in a year, and then you know Fortnite's like, hey, last night we thought you know maybe you can ride a rocket while shooting pumpkins and dress as a bush, so we put it in the game today. It just seems like it's so much more like we're just gonna throw some crazy shit in there and see if you guys like it. And it feels like, I don't know, that's just kind of refreshing after such a deliberate tweak or balance from PUBG. It feels like it takes kind of a long time to show up. So
yeah, and it sort of feels like they're responding to that or swiftly responding to that in recent months. Because this last week, and maybe we'll move on to news now. I've been playing Assassin's Creed and BioShock 2. Don't need to hear about that. Both great. But yeah, this week on Monday at 7 p.m., the new 4x4 kilometer map was open.
PUBG came out.
Yeah, it was open for testing. And it's tiny. It's really tiny compared. It's half the size.
A quarter the size?
Quarter the size.
And it changes. I think I haven't played it myself, but like from what I understand is we had a big write-up go. Chris, you played it with, maybe not with Evan, but you and Evan and Jody, I think, played it. What do you think of it? How's it feel?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because like flying over the map before you jump in, I was like, oh my god, this thing is so tiny.
Yeah.
This is just gonna be, it's just gonna be chaotic, like bloodshed from start to finish. When you land in it, it's like, oh, okay, it's still really big, and I still have to run and drive and all that stuff. There is a lot of like early combat. You know, before my boots even hit the ground, I was seeing like death notifications, and you know, obviously there's fewer areas to loot, so you have more players in those areas upon landing. But I felt like kind of like so many were killed early that there was still that kind of mid-game lull where,
yeah,
you know, if you happen to be in a good spot and you know you're in the circle, there's still that kind of that slow period, which isn't bad. That's part of PUBG. It's part of, you know, having enough time to really scour and upgrade all the stuff that you've found so far. So it didn't feel like an altogether different experience, but the rounds are definitely shorter, which I think is good. Obviously, I think a lot of people, obviously millions of people, enjoy PUBG's sort of, you know, half hour per match. This has probably felt like closer to like 20 minutes. And I think that's great. I think as time goes on, I think players might want to play quicker rounds in a smaller area where there's not quite so much downtime. Some obviously will prefer the big one, but it felt like it worked pretty much okay, and that moving forward, you know, they got 2 big maps. That feels like probably enough. Maybe keep focusing on smaller ones.
I wonder if this is going to be the push for them in esports going forward, you know, because I think, I can't remember if we've written about this on the site, but I know Evan has talked about kind of the challenge of this game for esports is like the pro players, you know, aren't going to want to engage right off the start of the map of a match. They want to hide and gear up and, you know, get in an optimal position and that kind of thing. So the amount of downtime in a pro match, I think, is even exaggerated compared to just a general pub game. So that doesn't make for the most compelling viewing experience unless you like really like watching a guy just, you know, sit in the bathroom with a shotgun. So I wonder if this smaller map is going to, you know, if they're going to kind of keep working on the design of the map and the design of the game to try to iron out those lulls that you were talking about and like make it a more consistent, you know, there always needs to be something happening to make it a more interesting game to watch. Maybe not. Maybe they don't care about that. But
yeah, I mean, I have talked to Brendan Green about the esports thing, and his attitude was like, you know, it's not a, you know, we don't really care about making it some big action-packed, you know, thrill-a-second type of game. It is what it is, and, you know, hiding and waiting is a valid strategy. And obviously, when there's, you know, money on the line, that's what players are going to do. And I've seen the same thing in H1Z1. It is a bit of a, I don't know if it's a problem or if it's just, this is just the way it is, and maybe it just doesn't make a fantastic viewing experience for esports. At least not the way it's presented now, where you're kind of dependent on someone controlling the camera to tell you what you can look at. They miss a lot of action. But I think it would be interesting to see. I also want to see how like duos and squads do on the smaller map, because right now it was only for solo players. So it'd be interesting to see with, you know, 4 people on your team, you're trying to get everyone geared up. You don't have as much time. You don't have as many areas to loot. I'm interested to see how that works for the smaller map too.
And, you know, I think to some extent, like the esports angle, you know, how important it being a good viewing experience is to the developers, like, kind of depends on what the audience you're going for with that esports stuff is. And I think so much of esports coverage right now is kind of aiming for the widest possible audience. But I think back to, I used to watch Arena on, I think it was on it might have been on Tech TV before G4. I think it was, but on cable TV back in the day, they had a show called Arena on G4, I believe on Tech TV before that, where they would play Counter-Strike, SOCOM, Unreal Tournament, I forget what else. But like I never was a SOCOM player, but I really liked watching the SOCOM kind of pro play back then. And that is not a fast-paced, thrilling game. It's a game of like 7 minutes of sneaking and then 30 seconds of action, and then the match is over, you know? So I found that riveting at the time. It just depends on, you know, what your audience is and what they're in for, because not everyone wants to watch 7 minutes of just crawling through the weeds before some action happens. But
I mean, you ever watch baseball?
I was into it. I like baseball.
I love watching baseball. There's a lot of downtime in baseball.
There is a lot of downtime in baseball. But it's a better sport than football, so
it is.
Moving on.
So Savage, it's I think keys are still going out at some places and so on. So I don't know. Do you know how long testing is going on for?
I think it ends very late
tomorrow.
It's the first round of testing for the map. It's not done. Like there's lots of areas that aren't complete, and I think there's going to be a lot more work on it.
Cool.
So there will be further rounds of testing and hopefully more access each time.
Gotcha. Something to look forward to. More in news. Fortnite. Back to Fortnite again. Real quick. Added vending machines to the map.
Do they give you drinks or?
Yeah, just soda. Just some soda.
Can I get like some Picari sweat out of there?
Soda. No, it's kind of an interesting thing. So as you gather resources, wood, brick, or metal, if you have excess of them, you can, at one of these locations, just exchange them for a gun of some kind. So, and you can rotate through a given selection and choose your weapon, or one of a couple at each vending machine.
Those feel like they're going to become hotspots for combat, like snipers. You know, set up watching the vending machine.
I mean, it's I think it's a good idea because it's not just like, I don't think like players having too many resources is a problem or not enough guns is a problem. I think it's a very situational thing, but it creates these kind of new points of interest or activity for players to keep an eye on. So, it makes parts of the map that were maybe not busy a little busier or interesting, and that's cool. That's cool to me.
Epic should put out a before and after heat map for the map on what the vending machines did, what kind of impact they had. That would be cool.
Exactly. Now I want to talk about something that's really near and dear to my heart. Dark Souls Remastered.
Ooh.
So
this is only about like 6 weeks away at this point.
Yeah, May 25th.
Late May,
I believe. It's some PlayStation Pro 4 Pro footage is out there, no PC footage, and some more details. So we know what the thing is now, and we know the the extent of the remastering. And I'll pull up some footage in a second, but I'll just name off some features here real quick. The 4K resolution is supported, 60 FPS out of the box. Texture and lighting effects have been improved, and you'll see that in the video here in a sec. The big thing for me is the increase of online players from 4 to 6, and you get the dried finger item, which facilitates those 6-player sessions much earlier in the game.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's going to really change what the online play feels like.
Yeah, there's an arena as well, so this is going to be like ideally a locus for PvP activity.
Where is the arena going to be?
I don't quite know. Sean Prescott, who played this last weekend or so, reports that the arena will support a 3v3 team and 6-player deathmatch. So also coming is the password matchmaking system, like very awkward, obtuse matchmaking system.
That's great compared to what it had originally, which was nothing.
Yeah. Some people might frown on it and say, no, it's all about the random, but now you can play with friends if you just give your online session a password, meet at a specific place, you can summon based on that password. That's kind of nice. I mean, it's been out long enough now that that I think that's fine. Regional matchmaking, you can turn it on or off. Players can no longer summon ally phantoms consecutively when in combat with enemy phantoms. And yeah, so basically some matchmaking changes. There's a new bonfire besides Vamos the blacksmith in the catacombs, so that's nice, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know how significantly that's going to change things. You can change your, and I'll bring up footage right now of the game itself. You can change your covenant at any bonfire, which was something you could do in the sequels.
In 3, at least.
Yeah, at least 3. So that's like just a nice ease of life change. You're seeing this is Vadi Vidya's comparison video. Just some small changes like those leaves are animated, the grass sways. There's small changes to the lighting. Fire gives off smoke.
So I'm guessing they're not going to make fast travel significantly more fast travel-y.
No, I don't think they're going to change that at all.
I think it's fine that they don't.
Yeah, for the first Dark Souls, the map is so wraps back on itself so often that I think it's better without it.
It was really built to not have fast travel,
Yeah.
and I think that shows in the design of the map. It's such a good map.
Yeah. So you can watch that video. I'll link to it in the chat. He's got some more comparison footage. It's not going to be a total masterful update, and on the PC, I think it's
they're not trying to like port it into make it look like it's in CryEngine of like the best graphics ever and shit like that, which is fine.
The big questions I have are, what about mods, and how open is this game going to be? How will the mod scene stick to the original, or will they be welcomed in with the how this game is packaged? Make it as accessible. So
I feel like, well, I don't know. In most cases like this, I feel like the underlying game code would not be significantly different, but the PC version was pretty rough the first time around.
That's what I worry about.
So I don't know if mods people have made for that would be easy to make them compatible for this new version or not. But I am really glad to hear, I don't think you mentioned it, but in our write-up, we have the information that QLoc is the team, or QLOC, I just pronounce it QLoc, are the team doing the PC port. And I think every PC port that they have done has been really high quality.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it.
I believe they did the Deus Ex, like Mankind Divided port, and they've done some other Japanese games, I believe. They're really solid. So I would expect this version of the game to be drastically better than the original PC version.
Cool.
Which, famously you need Durante's DSFix mod to really to really play it, period. It's almost unplayable without.
So May 25th, there's a dark, I guess I'm not fawning over this. I'm not losing my mind, but I am excited to be able to play this on a Nintendo Switch. That's pretty much it.
Chris, are we going to get you to play Dark Souls this time around?
I probably should at some point. And the way James has written about it in the past has always intrigued me quite a bit. I'm kind of intimidated by just getting the shit kicked out of me constantly.
It's fairly hard.
Well, now that we can password matchmake, maybe we can.
It's so much more fun to play it with a friend. I think some people swear by the solo experience, but I really enjoy it co-op.
Yeah. Oh, it's a ton of fun with co-op, especially if you're getting invaded constantly. You and I in Dark Souls 3 had a couple sessions
some
that
good
were
invasions,
nail biting invasions that were a lot of fun. It's like opt-in trolling, basically. Cool. But let's quit talking about the news and talk about old news, because Far Cry 5 is old at this point. When did that come out? I don't even know.
A week and a half ago.
Something
like that.
But we played the crap out of that. Chris, you reviewed it, gave it a pretty good score. I'd say. I'll link to that in the chat. And how do you feel about Far Cry 5, A Trip to Hope County, Montana, overall?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. The Far Cry series is great, I think, with some exceptions in each game, but I do enjoy them a lot. They're typically my kind of games. Are a big kind of crazy ass sandbox where you can do some story missions, you get tired of those, do some side missions. Get tired of those, just go run around and watch a bunch of crazy crap happen and blow a lot of things up. That's kind of the appeal of the series to me, and it's kind of the kind of game experiences I think I tend to enjoy the most are where there's structure if you want it, and there's complete kind of freedom if you don't. And just the way that there's not a lot of roadblocks in terms of like, oh, you want to go to this part of the map and do something, here's a helicopter or a car or a boat, and here's infinite parachutes and wingsuit. Like they just throw these tools at you so you can do whatever you're going to do whenever you want to do it. So that stuff is a lot of fun.
You put a GIF in chat the other day that I don't know if this was from. Was this from you playing, where you jumped out of the helicopter and landed on the guy?
No, that was. I assume I found it on Reddit. Yeah, a guy had apparently taken a helicopter to a outpost, and he didn't bring a helicopter that had guns in it. And I don't know if he intended to jump out and not pull his parachute. You can do these takedown, death from above kills. So if you're on a roof and a guy is standing there, you can jump on him and you'll kill him. He happened to do it from a helicopter at a height of like 1,000 feet, and it broke his fall because when you enter that like death from above sequence, it doesn't know how high you jumped from. You just happen to be above a guy and kill him. So yeah, he jumped out of a helicopter, basically landed on the guy.
It's basically like the physics how you think physics works when you're like 12 and you're like, well, if I was in an elevator and the elevator fell, then as long as I jumped at the last second, it'd be fine, right? And you're like,
right.
Well, that's not exactly how it works.
And this is feeling a lot more too like, what's the other crazy bloom? Just Cause.
Yeah.
It's where you've got grappling hooks you can do things with. There's basically 10 different ways if you're falling that you won't die, because that's in their interest to kind of keep you doing crazy crap, even if you're plummeting to your death.
I was going to say that that takedown kill reminded me of Dishonored 2 and the ability to like fall on your clone to prevent yourself from taking damage, which was clever.
It does feel like there's a lot more an emphasis on or I guess there's a lot more tools in Far Cry 5, or at least like incentive to use them, because you have there's like, I don't know, there's a shitload of weapons. You have your wingsuit and parachute and all these things you get like right away, or can get right away. You have these new companions, which all are basically kill buttons or like cheat codes.
Cheeseburger.
Yeah, in animal or person form, that almost like guarantee shit will go wrong, but they give you fun ways sort of getting out of shit going wrong or to blow things up. I found myself in this game like not caring about being stealthy about 5 hours in. Like every Far Cry game so far, I've kind of like, I want to perfect those outposts and I want to do them right. In this one, if things went wrong, I just kind of rolled with it and made things blow up, and sicked my like attack plane on the scene and dropped bombs and sent my murderous bear after the rest. I don't know, Chris, did you feel the same way? Like you just kind of let go a little sooner than?
Yeah, I didn't really focus much on stealth,
right.
Because it is kind of, and when I didn't really care if things went awry, because that is, I think, the most fun. But that's how I kind of approached Dishonored, honestly. Like,
yeah.
Like I like when it's kind of enjoyable when things kind of go crazy. But yeah, there are so many tools, and these companions, once you unlock them, you can like summon them anytime you want, unless they've been killed recently. You can just meet people in the woods, like finding people and be like, "You're now in my squad, come on." And it is like super, super easy to make sure that you have like the help, as much help as they want to give you, which is kind of a lot.
Well,
but I did a few outposts with stealth, and it's still fun. It's still fun to sneak around and crack necks and drop dudes and then suddenly, you know, I get the fireworks because you're finished and you've liberated the outpost. But it's not something I focused on a whole lot.
One thing that you wrote about, James, that seemed different than the past few Far Cry games is that this game like doesn't give you a fucking second to breathe. That like they felt like there needed to be some emergent action happening constantly, and that doesn't seem really conducive to playing stealthily. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
No, yeah, it's, I don't know. It's kind of a problem in the last couple of games overall, and I still think it's a. I don't know if it's like, it's not a crippling problem in this game, but it does sort of.
It changes the vibe,
it's
right?
It changes the vibe, and it, I don't know, like the setting, which is like this. It's Western Montana. It's mountainous and gorgeous, and really an otherwise like tranquil place. Shit is happening all the time, like in this place. Cars are driving by, people are getting into gunfights, buffalo are charging you, and then like a bear appears out of nowhere. You'll like save someone from a hostage situation, then a mountain lion will pounce on them immediately afterwards.
Based on your descriptions of life in Montana, I don't get the impression that shit happening all the time is the norm.
No, and I get that, like Chris was saying, they really want you to be constantly be seeing or experiencing or pulling off wacky shit, and that's good. I think like maybe they could crank back a little bit, you know, like pump the brakes, because especially at first it's very rare that you can stand in a place for 5 minutes or in the same area and for the game not to like throw something at you, whether it's like a fucking deadly skunk or you know, just like a random patrol of you know, whatever the region's bad guys. It's frustrating at first. I don't think it's crippling, and it certainly like dilutes how special some moments are, you know, or you know. But I don't know. You kind of just give into it eventually. And
are there actually skunks?
There are skunks.
There are skunks, yeah, and they're like people will scream, like people act like skunks are like sharks.
Yeah,
and they're in the middle of the ocean. People freak out about skunks, and like I don't blame them because the skunks are really aggressive. But it's just weird to have the same level of hysteria about seeing a skunk as seeing like an airplane like machine gunning your house. Like it's the same level. It's like the same amount of excitement and panic from the NPCs. It's hilarious.
And just last night, my girlfriend and I were walking around our neighborhood, and the skunk waddles by, and I instinctively was like, "Shh!" Oh, didn't want to get stunk up, but you know, skunks are cute, little stinky.
Turkeys too. Turkeys will kill you.
Yeah.
They're very mean.
Wow, that's maybe a little extreme.
It's pretty excessive. I don't know. It's funny when a skunk just appears out of nowhere and goes, meh, and then like sprays you in green, fills your screen. And
do you think there's that a version of Far Cry 5 following what Ubisoft did with Assassin's Creed Origins, where they have the educational version that they put out a few months later, where you can kind of just you know, go through the environment like passively, no combat. So obviously you're not going to learn about the rich history of Montana through Far Cry 5, but would it be nice like to just wander around that environment without,
you know, I think
combat?
It's a beautiful environment, and like Chris can back me up or not here, like the way they have designed, or like the progression of the game makes it much more conducive to like just exploring at your own pace, and it's much better at like having, I think it has more character than you might think of when you think of Montana or like Far Cry environments in past. There's a lot of little bespoke cabins and areas that like reference real places in Montana. But I don't know if I'd get much value or if it would be fun on its own for that. Maybe a photography mode would be nice, but
yeah, I mean, it would be kind of nice to take pictures, or you know, spend a half hour fishing without being attacked by by cougars or bears. Like I figured a fishing spot, like where there's a sign, like here's a spot to fish from, and with a fishing guide. Like I figured, okay, they'll loosen the bubble around me that like attracts things like a magnet.
Yeah.
But that's not really the case. Like there have been very few fishing adventures where a bunch of crap didn't happen.
And it's frustrating because some of one of my favorite things about the game is the fishing, and like the they don't really, I don't know if they ever spell it out for you, but there's like state records for all the different kinds of fish, and you have to fish at these hard spots and like earn these new poles as you go, fishing rods that have better stats.
Are they like real types of fishing poles? Do you know your?
I don't think they're not branded.
You don't know your rods.
I know my rods. I know my fly fishing rods, and yeah, if you like break these records, you can eventually unlock the best fishing pole in the game. And some of these like fish, like Chris, have you done the?
Can you throw the fishing rod like a shovel?
God, I don't know.
Like a spear?
I don't think you can. That would be tight though. I'm so kind of disappointed you can't actually like
hook enemies. Stab a guy in the neck with the fishing rod.
That'd be tight. But God, it's called, I think, the Captain or something. There's a couple fishing missions where you have to catch really difficult fish to catch strong fish with stamina that will drive you insane. But have you done any of those, Chris?
I haven't tried to break any records. I caught one of each kind.
Yeah. Because
you get points for that. But I haven't become a fishing master yet.
I spent like 20 minutes trying to catch this one fish, and you have to really tire them out. Like you're kind of resisting the direction they're going, and you're reeling them in slowly. And if you resist too hard or reel in too quickly, the line will snap. And I don't know if like they stay tired or whatever, but it didn't seem that way. But I was trying to catch this fish. I was like 10 minutes into this one battle, fucking bear, just behind me. I was so angry at the game at that point, but I eventually did catch this guy, and it was great.
I think there's really like money and audience left on the table in this kind of game, not having even like a spin-off version of it or something, or a DLC, I don't know the right way to package it, that is basically like Pokemon Snap. These developers build these incredibly rich, complex, systemic worlds, and then the only way to interface with them in most cases is through combat.
Yeah.
And I just think of like how many people really enjoy playing games to just discover the world and like document the creatures and just see that stuff. And if there was a totally non-violent version that you could buy for half the price, or maybe it's even like a free DLC or a $5 DLC for the base game, where they kind of build some light objectives around that, like you're talking about the fishing system, do that for like every kind of part of the ecosystem in the game, like a system for documenting all of the bugs and collecting the bugs and documenting all the wildlife with photos, or like tagging them for nature preservation, or whatever, like just systems for being a kind of a wildlife expert. People would love that shit.
Yeah, I would.
Or playing baseball, which
exactly.
I was very unhappy to discover. So let me explain. In the game, there's an NPC. He's a minor league baseball player. He hangs around a baseball diamond. He has a bat. He stands at home plate taking swings at the air. He really wants to hit a baseball. On the mound of the baseball diamond is a glove with a baseball in it. I, as a player, have the ability to throw things. Standing on the pitcher's mound, throwing rocks at home plate, it's like a perfect pitch. It's like, oh, okay, they'll let me pick up this baseball and throw a pitch to this guy who's standing there wanting to be pitched to. Apparently, you can't do it. The baseball, you can't even move the baseball. Like most objects in the world, you can move or kick or push. It's really weird. I was just baffled by this. Like, why not just let me pick up the ball and throw it and let this guy swing and hit it? Like, it couldn't have been that much more work than all this? I don't know.
Yeah, we even joined...
they just didn't have time to get to it.
We got into co-op and tried doing it together to see, like, well, I have a bat, I can swing it, and it has collision, and the rocks Chris is throwing have collision, and even then, nothing.
Couldn't hit it.
I think the rock hit the bat once when you're swinging it. It didn't go anywhere. It just took an angle off your bat. But
either way, it's like, if there's one thing I want these games to start doing, they can be big and dumb and explosive and violent forever, for all I care, but I just want, like, over time to fill in those interactions, give us more, like, verbs besides shoot and punch and shovel. By the way, there's some the shovels are really, really good in this game. I'll show you guys a gift.
I think
here.
shovels are fun.
Realistically, these big games are never going to focus on something that's not the combat, but I feel like there's room to have, a spin-off version of them that lets you do this other thing, and there are definitely going to be people who want to play that.
I agree.
Or the shovel throwing simulator.
It's one of my favorite settings in games in recent memory, or at least like one of the prettiest. But
are you just sworn off guns at this point, Chris? Is it just all shovels?
It's a lot of shovels. To be honest, I'll be straight up. I throw a lot of shovels. I still use plenty of guns.
Right on. Yeah, Far Cry 5. Have you been doing any of the arcade stuff, Chris? I'm kind of like not impressed by it for the most part, but.
Well, you and I did one of the challenge maps, I guess, which was fun. I guess I don't know. I haven't really done much with arcade.
Yeah.
Except look at some maps every now and then, but. I'm still kind of exploring the world. There's Bigfoot references. I've been trying to figure out if Bigfoot is actually in there, or if it's just going to be another disappointing baseball in a baseball glove that I can't pick up. So I've been doing kind of exploring, picking up some side quests and stashes and things like that to basically get all those icons off my map.
They're starting to do weekly challenges now too, like these live events. And this first one is there's two segments.
Set animals on fire.
Set animals on fire without using Molotov cocktails or flamethrowers. So you have to. I mean, it's like be creative, but you can also just get shotgun slugs incendiary shotgun slugs. So incendiary shotgun slugs. So it's like people are just doing that, and they beat the like. I saw the thing release, the weekly update's out, and then I checked on it like 5 minutes later, and there's a community goal, so like a collaborative one. It was like beaten by twice the goal within 5 minutes.
Jeez.
You have to contribute on your own to like get stuff out of it. So you have to go set your own buffalo on fire with shotgun shells. But you get like a pretty weird outfit and like a flamethrower skin. So. Incentive to hop in, and that might be the vessel with which they introduce Bigfoot or something.
Yeah, I was going to say, when are we going to find Bigfoot?
I'm really hoping they get more creative than this first punch with these weekly things, because, like you were saying, Wes, it's a huge sandbox. Like, what can they do with it? Like, this is the time to incentivize weird behaviors and interactions. So,
I set a cougar on fire with a blowtorch, so I don't know if that's. I don't know if I helped or if I get something. I just was like, well, that's something I did.
Oh my God! Well, that's one way to get it. Far Cry 5, good stuff. Check out our review, pcgamer.com/reviews. Is that our
that'll go somewhere.
That'll go somewhere. I'll link to it in chat as well. But it's a good game. It's fun. Story's a bit vapid. We'll comment on that soon. But yeah, Far Cry 5. Moving on, another Chris topic. You got that fancy new headset, didn't you?
Yeah, the Vive Pro.
How's that going?
I like it. It's a big improvement when it comes to comfort. My main issue with the original Vive in general has been like, is this thing going to be something I can tolerate wearing on my head for more than a half hour?
Yeah.
And that was the biggest problem with it at launch too, right? Is the Vive. I think I wrote in my review, like, that is the one place where it really fell down compared to the Oculus. Is just, it's too heavy. The straps are pretty fiddly, don't give you as much support, didn't have built-in audio, and as you called out, they fixed all that stuff.
Yeah, it is really kind of night and day in terms of how it feels on my head. And I think, quite honestly, like, it's good that they made that such a big focus with this version, because I think part of being immersed in a VR world is kind of forgetting that there's a computer stuck to your face. You know, it's being comfortable enough that you don't think about it very much and can focus on the world instead of wearing something kind of heavy and uncomfortable. So I think that's really important. I think they kind of made some real advances in how it feels, and also in how easy it is to get it to feel okay. Like the first Vive, it always just felt like a bunch of spots on your head you were trying to equalize, and it took a while. And this feels a lot more like you put it on and you're almost already in a comfortable spot, and you just have to tweak it a little. So I think they did some great stuff there. Having integrated audio, obviously a plus, and kind of hard to be like, hey, that's great, because why didn't, I'm kind of confused why that wasn't part of the first one to begin with.
I think it was just money. I think it would have cost them more, and they were already a more expensive package than the Oculus, so they just cut corners where they could.
Yeah, and really, that's kind of the thing with the Vive Pro is it costs the same as the original Vive did when that came out, but doesn't include the 2 base stations and the 2 controllers if you want, a full room experience. You have to buy the stuff separately. So headsets, $800. If you need stations and controllers, that's another $250 or $280. So you're looking at basically $1,100.
Oof.
If you've been using the original Vive and you have the controllers and base stations, they work fine still. That's what I've been using. And there are going to be improved ones out later this year. So it's kind of hard to really say buy this now, because there's more improved controllers and base stations coming out. There's a wireless adapter that's coming out later this year. So I don't know. It's a lot of money for stuff that there might be better versions of soon. So yeah, it's still expensive, but at least I would say the comfort has definitely come a long way.
Yeah, that's important, and I'm really curious to see how well that wireless adapter works. If there's any noticeable latency, if there's any loss in image quality, anything like that. But if it can work flawlessly, that's a huge step for PC VR to be untethered, but to still have all of the head tracking positional stuff that it can do that mobile VR still doesn't have kind of as good support for.
Yeah, that's I think that is probably in the next really big step, is to not have to think about this cable being attached to something. So it feels like, step by step, it'll get closer to what I think the kind of experience we're all looking for. It just depends on how long and obviously how much it's going to cost.
What's the sweatiest VR game you've played so far?
The sweatiest? Well, I played at GDC, I played Creed, which is the boxing movie with...
Oh, it's actually, I forgot it was actually based on the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not Creed, you punch members of the band Creed, although that would be not a bad game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Creed I played at GDC, and it's it's a boxing game, and it's not like some Wii boxing bullshit where you're just kind of I'm throwing my arms out like I'm pretending to punch. I kept punching and it wasn't registering as a punch, because you have to really punch, you have to throw out your fist as hard as if you were really trying to punch someone, and I can't it's really hard. It's really tiring.
Shit.
You really have you have to act like you're really punching a punching bag or a human being to get this game to notice that you're punching. That was very sweaty. That was I guess a round is 3 minutes. It felt like about an hour and a half.
Damn.
I love the dawning, the idea of this dawning realization of you keep putting your fist out there and you're just
oh my God.
I don't have the strength to actually punch someone. This is not working.
Yeah. So that was definitely I think that's the sweatiest I was. They had to give me a towel afterwards. So that shows you where I'm at.
Is it being designed for exercise purposes? Or
I
fun?
didn't really feel like this is going to train you how to box.
Right.
It just felt like this is trying to be more than just some casual little boxing game where you, yeah, I'm punching the air. You have to really have to work.
All right. Cool. On that note, we have some questions about GDC in our Q&A from our members in the Discord. So why don't we move on to that? Yeah.
Sure.
Let's move on to the Twitch chat Q&A section of the show. We do collect questions from our Discord members first, so we have some of those queued up. If you have questions for us in the chat, tag @PCGamer, and we'll get to you if we have time. If you want to know more about the Discord, though, and get your questions in ahead of time, you can go to club.pcgamer.com, where that's how you get into the Discord. It's one of the membership perks. It's like $5 a month. You get a free game every month. You get access to our Discord. You get a digital subscription to our magazine. You get the RPG handbook.
You get to chat with James.
You get to chat with me. You get basically a direct DM line to my phone, which is fucked up now that I think about it. What am I missing? Oh, beta keys. So we prioritize some of these PUBG keys for our members, and we do that with whatever beta stuff we get. Typically, we'll reserve those for some of our members first, and you get some high-res glossy JPEGs of Tub Geralt. So that's club.pcgamer.com for more information. First question has to do with GDC.
Hit us with it.
Comes from Chris86. What was the best news from GDC?
Mutineer Zero.
What is this?
I think I would qualify that as it was the best for me. Yes. So Mutineer Zero is a game that I saw during GDC. The developers brought it by the office and wrote about it the week after. It is basically an XCOM style strategy game. Like, the combat is pure XCOM, much like the Mario and Rabbids game that Ubisoft put out on the Switch last year, where you have a squad of 3 units, but it has like the same movement system. It has Overwatch. It has what you would expect from XCOM. But the setting is a post-apocalyptic kind of near future, I guess, a bit sci-fi, but not super sci-fi,
right?
Kind of ruined near future society where the main characters are all mutants, either mutant humans or mutant animals. And I think for your party that you'll recruit skews a little more towards the animals because they're just more fun.
They're cool looking.
They're cool. So like the 2 that they showed off in this demo, one's like a giant boar man, pig man, and the other's a duck, Howard the Duck looking dude.
He looks cool and grumpy.
And the whole setting is based on a Swedish pen and paper RPG from that's been around since the 80s.
Damn.
It's based on like the newest version of that, which was published like 2011 or something like that. I forget exactly. So in addition to being XCOM and its combat, it is an RPG. So you're going to be going on quests. You're going to have a party of characters you recruit, and you can choose which ones go into battle. You're going to be walking around this post-apocalyptic environment, these different areas, finding, story and lore stuff scattered around and going on missions and getting loot and items that you equip and level up. And all of the like skill trees for the characters are based on mutations, as you would kind of expect them to be with these mutant characters. So it's just a really, really cool setting for an XCOM style game that is then wrapping in this RPG stuff. And it has some stealth elements to it where you can, before you get in combat, kind of position yourself around the map in real time. So you're not in the kind of XCOM like grid based kind of thing yet. You're just walking around the map, exploring. And a lot of the developer team worked at IO Interactive on the Hitman games prior to this. So they have a lot of experience doing stealth and doing systemic kind of interactive stuff.
Yeah.
So the pedigree is great. It looks really nice. It looks like it has a ton of personality. The combat is XCOM, and they didn't screw it up. So XCOM is great. So like every component of this game from what I saw looks really fun, looks cool, looks, familiar but also different. It's mixing components that I've never seen in a single game before, so I am really pumped for it.
Is there a release window for this?
This year.
Cool. 2018?
Probably end of the year would be my guess, but
I'm excited.
They said this year, yeah.
Well, I was excited to begin with. But there's a really cool cinematic trailer you should look at.
And there's like 30 minutes of gameplay out there that you can see too, so.
Cool. Get a taste. Chris, what about you? You were at GDC for 2 days yourself?
Yeah, I was there for a couple days. The best news. This it's too early to say if it's great news. I did get to try the 400-player battle royale called Mavericks Proving Grounds. There were only 5 other people in it at the time, but it had something that was really cool where you can track, like, you leave footprints when you run, so you can track players by their footprints, which I think is kind of neat for a battle royale type game. I like anything where you can get an idea if people are around by something other than gunshots or being shot.
Right.
So it gives you kind of a stealthy option to kind of track someone by their footprints.
That seems like it's going to be hard with 400 people.
Big map.
Yeah, and they told me, like, these don't stay persistent for the entire games. But if someone ran through some mud and then ran across a road recently, you'll be able to see those footprints. Or if you did that yourself, someone will be able to see yours. Gotcha. So it feels like a nice little touch that you don't see in other battle royale games at the time.
I do like that could bring in sort of like chase movie stuff where you're like, I'm going to run through the creek to throw off the pursuit or whatever, throw off the dogs, hide my footprints.
Yeah. Cool. More battle royale iterations in the future, and I'm excited to see where the genre goes.
First of many, I'm sure.
For me, I don't know. I think the message I got was sort of bleak for indies coming out of GDC, but I think overall, just seeing everyone and the cool games that are still being made, just really cool. I don't know, like just good vibes coming out of there. Talked to a lot of interesting people, and it doesn't seem like the sky is going to fall quite yet. Next question. Let's go through these. Mildos, any prediction for this year's newsworthy announcements for Bethesda Softworks? I'm calling it. They have their current game in production ready to show at E3 and announce it's releasing late this year. Fallout 4 type situation all over again? I bet. I mean, they don't have anything currently announced, do they?
No.
Yeah, so I kind of dig their style of announcement. Just boonk. This is what's coming out this fall.
I have a hard time believing, the next Elder Scrolls could be out this year.
No.
But,
I don't think we're getting anything of that caliber.
I don't know what else Bethesda Prime, would be working on, but I don't know. I think they'll announce something at E3, but will it be out this year? I don't know.
I don't know either. I know Arcane is still working on stuff. They still exist, so maybe we get a teaser. Well, that's too soon. I don't know. Prey DLC has been hinted at, so that's probably a sure thing to see more of. Other than that, who fucking knows? I kind of like being in this in the dark. It's kind of exciting. I don't know. Fallout and Skyrim Battle Royale. Everything Battle Royale. Chris, do you have any projections or thoughts or predictions or visions?
No, I mean, they've said, like, we know there'll be a new Elder Scrolls. They are for sure working on it, but I think they've said, like, we're in the basic earlies, and, their deal is they announce and they release pretty quickly thereafter, so it would be great. I think it would be really exciting. And like I said, it's been since 2011 since Skyrim. Is that right?
Jeez, yeah, because it was like...
Pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, one's in the date. It was like 11. Am I crazy?
Yeah, so that would be, obviously very welcome news, but I wouldn't guess this year.
No, nothing too big, but exciting new IPs maybe. Next question. Nick Manley, 1987. What is the most realistic part about Far Cry 5's portrayal of Montana? And I guess I'll field this, being from there. I think the landscape looks exactly like that part, like the colors, and I don't know. It's always amusing when the skylines look vaguely familiar. So that is constantly nice for me as I get homesick sometimes. But what's the weirdest part is that one of the main hubs, good guy hubs, is the Hope County Jail, which is based on the old Montana State Prison. which is in the small town I grew up in. This big fucking fortress, like that's abandoned and no one uses it. It's like in a museum now, and it's just like in the game. I experienced a video game set piece, several of them in a prison. I used to like go. My sister used to work at, and we used to like.
Is that where you'd smoke cigarettes after?
Yeah,
school?
we would like climb the water tower next to it and smoke cigarettes up there. And there was a haunted house in there every year. We would help run. There was a theater in there. Still is a theater in there that the prisoners used to actually watch stuff at, where the local companies would put on shows and stuff. My sister and everything included, and it was really weird. It's not like 1-to-1, but if you go look up the old Montana State Prison, I did it in our last week's highs and lows, and you can see the similarities. And almost all of the major locations, like outposts, are based on actual places, like the haunted hot springs and. There's quite a few like that. Like some of the small towns are pretty familiar, and the bars.
They did their homework.
They did. So I was kind of impressed to see those little touches. But yeah, that was really, really nice to see and strange. No dad though. I haven't seen my dad in there. I think we're just relegated to a cow fucking joke. Stabby McStab12 asks, do you think PUBG would get more players by releasing the new map as a standalone free-to-play? That way, if people like the free PUBG experience, they can buy the full game if they want the bigger maps. They've already got it set up as a second test server, so it already seems like its own, more casual PUBG game. What do you guys think?
I mean, they'd certainly get more players playing the free version, yes, for sure. I don't know if that's really advantageous to their business model.
Yeah.
Like, they have sold 25 million copies of that game or something. I don't even remember.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a game that's like struggling for a player base. But it's not honestly, it's not a bad idea. It does give you a little look at the game, and if you've never tried it before, I can't think of like I would think that would definitely sell you on it if you're interested.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people, like I'm with Wes. I don't think they need to, and I think some of the moves they've made, like adding fucking emotes and a smaller map, and doubling down on sort of their cosmetics and such, like it's easy to look at that as a response to Fortnite, and it might be considered that to some people working there, but it seems like just natural growth too, like natural iteration and growth for them. So
it's not like Fortnite's the first game to have emotes and stuff. Yeah.
And I don't think it's cannibalizing PUBG. I think they are at this point different enough that, and that they provide different experiences overall, like by a long shot. So,
but seeing some part of it going free to play eventually, or the whole game going free to play, isn't crazy.
Not out of the question to me.
I wouldn't be shocked ever if that happened.
No. Let's see here. Any more questions? Battle Tank 09 staff. Wait, excuse me. With the Eugen systems strike going on, do you think Paradox will put pressure on Eugen to reach a compromise with its staff? Are you guys familiar with this story at all?
This is a French developer, right?
Yeah, the French developers that make the Steel Division series. So they're currently on strike because of discussions over serious violations of the rights, ranging from their working environment to pay disputes. So things aren't super hot for the employees over there, apparently. And the latest update, which I'll post here in chat, boink. The latest update is basically that the management is not really giving their claims much credence, or isn't bending. So it's frustrating. They are taking their employer to court now, and it's unclear exactly how this will. I'm not familiar with French labor laws or practices, so I have no idea how this could finish up. Battle Tank asks, though, if they think Paradox will put pressure on Eugen to reach a compromise with his staff. And if you don't know, Paradox is a publisher for a lot of these games. I also don't know. Like,
yeah, who knows? Who could say?
I would hope so.
I think they would want it to be cleared up. You know, they don't want that game to be, or that studio to be dysfunctional and not be able to put out new stuff. So it seems like it's in their interest. But would they put pressure on them? I don't. You know, they might not even have that kind of say or sway in that situation. Don't know. But I hope the developers get, you know, what they feel like they need to live and also afford to make games without going broke or killing themselves with crunch or many other issues that often faced game developers.
I agree. Last question here, and I didn't miss it, JBJ Blaze. I just don't look in the Discord after I put out the call. God damn it. Okay, JBJ Blaze asks, on the note of VR earlier, have any of you three seen Ready Player One yet? What do you think of the movie? Have you read or listened to the book? I saw it thrice with friends. 3 is a magic number. How much longer do you think the current VR has to wait to reach the Oasis level, which is like the in-universe like VR system everyone lives in, and avoid the potential worst effect, motion sickness? Also, while I wish they were more faithful to the book events-wise, I loved how Mr. Spielberg twisted it all so cleverly to still make sense and fit what was a 15-hour book into a 2-hour movie. And he had fun with both. So
I don't think we'll ever get to that level in VR, or if we do, not in our lifetimes anyway.
I think the world's going to end before that. Like, we're draining its resources and we're at war and killing each other, so no. But have I seen the movie? Have you guys seen the movie?
Nope.
I have neither read the book nor the movie yet. Though I do plan to see it this week because we like joined this movie pass thing.
Yeah.
You pay like $100 a year and then you can go to a bunch of movies.
Yeah, we have that. We go to Trash all the time. It's great.
Yeah, we're like, we never go to movies anymore. So like, let's make sure we go to movies by like spending a bunch of money on movies right now. We feel obligated to go to them. So.
Wes? You haven't seen it?
I haven't. I read the book, gosh, a long time ago.
No.
Not a fan. Not a fan at all. But I don't want to step on anyone's, enjoyment of it. I have a thing with nostalgia and like conjuring.
If your reference doesn't go deeper than remember this thing that existed, then I'm not interested.
Yeah, and I have this weird, I don't know, I just like the cult of nerdiness, like really I like the idea of being not specialists in anything. I like the idea of us being cultured in more ways than what is essentially like state endorsed media from like corporations. Like what are they, what they want us to like these things, and we do like these things clearly because we're making movies about them, our love of these things. And I don't know, there's something deeper in that really bothers me. I don't like being controlled by corporations. And
I think there is a positive aspect to the movie adaptation of you can put these things on the screen and not put total weight on like the just mentioning them being like the entire value of the movie. Like they're there in the background. There are things that are on screen for you to go, oh, I remember that. But it's not just reading out a list of proper nouns, endlessly.
Yeah,
as like the substance of what you're experiencing.
I will see the movie because maybe it does say something about like nostalgia and what that actually means, and like why when we see an image created by a media company or whatever or a corporation, why we feel so strongly attached to it, and what does that say about ourselves and I don't know. I think nostalgia is death because it points to something we once lost, an inherent vacuous space in our being. I don't want to see a movie about that, but I'm going to because Movie Pass is such a great value. PC Gamer Show brought to you by Movie Pass.
I also kind of just have a problem with Ernie Klein. I've watched this video or listened to this video of him doing a beat poetry about pornography.
I've seen
and I can't just take him seriously after that.
Yeah.
Just Google Ernie Klein beat poem porn. They'll probably bring it up. And that will kind of tell you what you need to know about him as a writer and leading nerd thinker.
I'm sorry, JBJ Blaze.
Sorry to rain on your parade.
I do like the band Rush, though, which features heavily in the book. The Rush is a great band. And
wait, The Rush or Rush?
Rush, the band,
okay,
features heavily. Their album, 2112, is that what it is?
Good old prog rock.
Little prog rock, like changing time signatures, and yeah, love that shit. Drums.
17 minutes later.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. We'll end on that by bullying JBJ Blaze.
I did see one thing about Ready Player One. I did see the In Exile Twitter account tweeted that the like Mecha Scorpion tank from Wasteland 2 was in the movie.
Weird.
Which is pretty, like, I appreciate that for it being a very small niche indie PC, you know, like strategy RPG, is not at the echelon of like big brand that I would expect to be in there. So
there's some storyboard artist who's like, I wonder if I can sneak this in, and the person who approved it was like, what the fuck is that? It's a cool I made it up a scorpion tank. Okay, keep it in. Whatever. It looks good.
Steven Spielberg's like, I like it.
I like it. Good job, Jerry. That's gonna do it for the PC Gamer Show today. Yeah, it's a pretty bit. We're going into a lull here. No big games, so we're gonna have to make up news and make up games, and I don't know. See how it goes. It's gonna be a drought for
maybe
a while.
Valve will announce Half-Life 3 next week.
God, I hope so. No, I don't. I don't want to make those guides. I don't make those All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. You can always catch us at 1 p.m. Every Wednesday, Pacific time, on twitch.tv/PCGamer. The show goes up on YouTube/PCGamer shortly after, and you can go to PCGamer.com/tag/podcast to see our whole archive of shows and subscribe to us on iTunes and listen to the MP3 directly and so on and so forth. So, again, until next week, we'll see you later.